What is going on, everyone? Anthony Cofrancesco here from Data Dive, and this is Office Hours. Now, over the last 2 weeks, we have covered ChatGPT 4.0, the new image model, and walked through the potential applications for main and secondary images. I have re-recorded a recap from the past 2 weeks, and that's what this session is. If you like this content, I cannot encourage you enough. You need to check out Camp Ecom. It's May 18 to 21 in Cancun, Mexico. The last couple of years, we have concepted main and secondary images. This time, we will create in person. You will leave with usable main, secondary images, and A+ content that you can upload onto Amazon. We have some different partners for market research. So you will have tested the assets. And like I said, these will be ready to upload to Amazon. We will have a virtual format. You can go to campecom.com, click on the QR code. There's going to be a link down in this video. More on that later. Now, like I said, we have a live session for office hours. Many of you are going to be catching the YouTube recap. So use the section markers down at the bottom to skip past the intro, to skip to the different sections that you're most interested in. If you don't already have a Data Dive account, go to datadive.tools/demo and book your free demo or scan the QR code on the screen. If you're an existing Data Dive user, you're going to want to reach out to Scott. He's the guy on the right-hand side of the screen, and he can help you with account upgrades, onboarding additional ASINs, setting up your rank radar, upgrading to an enterprise plan. His schedule does tend to get a little booked because he's the only dedicated customer success manager we have, but he is really good. He helps with all of our larger clients, all of our enterprise accounts. You're not joining this live session, so your only real options for asking questions are down in the comments below, but join the live sessions and you can take advantage of these other 2 ways of asking questions. Now, I like to cover this. There are 3 different ways that you can become a Data Dive expert. We have our knowledge base powered by our AI chatbot. We have our YouTube channel, and then I teach office hours, 3 live sessions every week. 1 for North America, 1 for Europe, and 1 for Asia Pacific. All of these resources are totally free, and you don't even need a Data Dive account to access them. So in order to access the knowledge base, click on the question mark icon in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. You can either navigate directly to the knowledge base, or you can type your question in the chatbot. For example, how to start a dive. And our AI assistant will look through the 100 plus knowledge base articles we have and will either give you the correct answer or it'll give you the answer here inside of the chatbot. Now, what is much better, and I prefer this, I recommend this, we recently added a UI button called the Help Hub. This is different for every area of Data Dive. So what you're seeing here is the master keyword list. If you click on the Help Hub button, it's going to show you what is the most recent and relevant video. It's going to show you the Help Center article, and then there's a button for Contact Our Team. So if there's a section of the tool you're not super comfortable with, click on the Help Hub and you can get more resources quickly. Now, all of the past office hours videos are on the YouTube channel. If you're watching this video, I would encourage you to subscribe. You can see this on the Office Hours V2 playlist. We have a bunch of other videos you can check out as well. Last quick announcement, Data Dive workflows. I have put tons of time into these over the last few months. We have 5 core workflows. These are full-blown PDFs with step-by-step instructions, links to videos. And right now, like I said, we have 5 of these. So we have 1 for product validation, and then we have 4 for optimization. Optimize SEO, optimize CTR, optimize CVR, and optimize revenue. You can find these by going to datadive.tools/workflows, and you can download these, share them with your team. We also have 2 partner workflows. One is a profitable PPC launch strategy from Bernard Nader at PPC Maestro. And we recently added a workflow, which is Intellivy's approach to CTR and CVR optimization that is a lot faster than my CTR and CVR workflow, but you have to invest $100 to $150 to run the initial tests. So those are our notes, our introduction. Here's a few notes before we get started. Now, A few years ago, this was back in 2022, I was presenting at Kevin King's $1 billion Seller Summit in Austin, Texas. And I revealed very early a tool from OpenAI called DALL-E. And I saw the potential of generative image creation for Amazon listings. Now, as you can see on the left-hand side here, these images weren't really perfect. You can see we've got some messed up faces, a very manly arm on this child, big lumps in the body. But if the point was to highlight this cooler, what I was teaching at this event was if you get a little creative with your prompt, you can actually get some usable images. So for these types of assets, I would just say, hey, I want 2 kids sitting on a beach or sitting in a sports field next to a cooler, but I want them facing away. And even back in 2022, we were able to get some pretty cool usable assets. Now, if I compare this to what this is on the right-hand side, Midjourney is able to do now, there's really no comparison. We don't need to have the children facing away. We get very realistic, photorealistic children. We get very realistic scenes. But up until this very moment in time, and this is as of literally a week ago, ChatGPT Midjourney could not handle more complex infographics. It couldn't handle text. And so you still had to use other tools to create usable Amazon assets. What I'm really excited about is I think for the first time out of the box, you're able to get usable assets that you can put up on your Amazon listing with very little work and very little effort. And so that's what I'm going to be showing today. And I hope you see the potential of these tools now and start integrating it into your business. Now, a few reminders about the tool. Number one is that ChatGPT 4.0 is very slow. It's going to take a minute to a minute and a half to render each image, but you can quickly overcome this by having multiple images rendering at the same time, and then using projects to have each of these individual tasks inside of the project to keep yourself organized. So you can see I've got a project for kids binoculars, basically a folder, and now I have all of the different assets that I'm trying to create, and they can be rendering simultaneously. Even though ChatGPT 4.0 is very slow, if you benchmark it against a designer, it's way faster than a human creating these on their own. So what I'm about to show you is what I was personally able to create in my first 3 hours of using this tool. And I would not say that I'm an expert. I think there's still a lot of improvement that's going to happen from the model getting better and then also from my own prompt engineering getting better. And just for reference, what I'm comparing this to is what our design team was able to create as part of our kids binocular case study, where I said, go out and spend 40 hours, 1 week, designing as many main images, secondary images, A+ content, branding, packaging. The team spent 40 hours on this. It wasn't quite where I wanted it to be, so I said, go spend another 20 hours, so about 60 hours in total. And that's really what I'm benchmarking it against. You're going to see some of the assets that we made. Like I said, main images, secondary images, A+ content. And this is really, in my opinion, our best designer on our internal team. They did an amazing job. If you've seen our CTR and CVR workflow, you've seen these assets before. If you've joined our image optimization masterclass back in November, you would have seen this case study. What I want to reinforce here is that agencies and designers, they're not going away, okay? But this will 100% change the way that they work and the expectations for what designers and agencies should be delivering to help run your brand. From time to time, ChatGPT 4.0 is going to get stuck. So if you ever see an image that's rendering for more than a minute, minute and a half, just type in and say, why isn't this starting? And that should usually kick it back off again. Another really important thing is ChatGPT 4.0 is going to get confused when the thread gets too long or you include too many different types of reference images. So I'm going to give you an example here. In this niche, there's a lot of Chinese competitors selling the product, very few American sellers. So I thought maybe we could justify the higher price point of the product by making an American-owned company designed in Austin, Texas. We've got some employees wearing a branded t-shirt in front of a warehouse with patriotic themes. And you can see that ChatGPT does a really good job with this, but it's also bringing in some elements of our magnification graphic. And you can see this one is just really messed up. We've got a hanging finger. So what I've found is that if you break separate image concepts into separate threads or separate tasks, and you limit the number of reference images that are given, you're going to get much better outputs, and the AI tends to not get so confused. A really big thing that I like about 4.0 versus Midjourney, and Midjourney is what we've been using exclusively for the last year and a half, is that the edit process is much more conversational. So instead of having to use the highlighting, the editing tool, or instead of having to go to another program like Photoshop or Illustrator, I can just talk straight to the AI and say, hey, I want the shock proof underneath the binoculars falling, and the water absorbent, I want it underneath the binoculars falling in water. So I just explain what I want, and ChatGPT handles this very easily. No need for advanced tools. It works extremely well. This, I believe, is the last tip here. The first week that I was using this tool, I was having some serious problems with creating photorealistic people, especially photorealistic kids. It basically told me that creating kids is against ChatGPT's photorealistic or identifiable kids is against ChatGPT's terms of service. But after talking with our internal design team, I found out this is not the case. It can create kids, no problem at all. But the important thing is context. Let me try to explain this. In this image or in this screenshot, I'm basically saying, it's telling me it couldn't make photorealistic kids. And I think, what if I get a photo of my niece and use that as a reference image? And I think I'm giving context here, but I'm really not. I'm basically saying, hey, I want you to make me a photo of a girl dropping binoculars, and here's a reference image of my niece, Rylan. And ChatGPT basically responds and says, oh yeah, your niece is super cute. Sorry, I can't make this image. The problem here is I'm being very vague about what's going on in the situation. Why do I want this image? Versus if I just move from saying, I want a photo of a girl doing this, and I say, hey, for extra context, this is a scene of a girl who is on a hike in the woods, exploring and doing bird watching. She should be wearing a backpack and hiking appropriate clothing. The age range of the girl should be between 7 to 9 years old. And then I go on to describe the colors that I want to see in the scene. So I think what's happening is because the image model is so new, it's very conservative, and it doesn't want any abuse. It doesn't want any inappropriate images. So if you just say, I want a photo of a girl, a little too vague, but I want a photo of a girl who's hiking. This is what she's wearing. This is a totally normal situation. It can kind of imagine, oh, okay, this sounds acceptable. I'm going to go and render the image. So this is what we did in week 1. As you can see, there's no humans. There's no photorealistic humans, but you can see from the CTR and CVR workflow, some common image types. We have an applications graphic here. We've got some product packaging here. We've got a main image. We've got some product anatomy graphics, another product anatomy graphic. This is that made in America or American-owned company. And this is back when I was combining multiple concepts per thread, which is why we have like 16x zoom on this American company graphic. But let me show you some of the further iterations that I did. And I'm going to start with the main image. So right out of the box, ChatGPT 4.0 can create excellent main images, things that you can absolutely use in the listing. And I used a white background reference image that we had, although I had seen many examples of people using their smartphone, holding the product in their hand, no fancy background, and being able to convert that really well to a white background 3D render. So this is the original. Obviously, it can make you a normal white background photo, but now I start to get more complex. And I say, okay, we've got the product on a white background. Let's add in the inclusions. So the logo is not perfect, but we do get the carrying case, the magnifying glass, and the compass. And then I said, wait a minute, we forgot the microfiber cleaning cloth. It reorganizes things. It looks a little bit better. So this is product plus parts, or sometimes I call it inclusions. I ask it to scale up the image to 2000 to 2500 pixels, and it does it. It doesn't really fill up all of the white space, but still a pretty good looking main image. So then I say, let's add some product packaging. We've got one of the hero keywords, which is kids binoculars. We've got so this would be an example of product plus parts plus packaging. Again, the logo's not perfect, but it's pretty good. This is what the team was able to output. This is product plus parts, and we've got this special bird watching book. If you saw our CTR optimization workflow, we showed this bird book, but it never looked this cool. So the organization of product plus parts, product plus parts, product plus parts plus packaging. Better packaging, I would say, than we created in the 60-hour case study, given the team was working on a very limited time frame, but I'm super impressed with how this looks. What you should really be doing here is looking at the main image matrix and saying, okay, obviously we can do a product on a white background, but what are all of the different combinations of main images you could have on this main image matrix? And how could we incorporate that? And how could we create other variations that we can run through market research, and then we can test over a period of a year on manager experiments? Coming up with 12 variations would literally be minutes of work if you have just anything for a reference image. So right off the bat, main images, slam dunk, knock it out of the park. It absolutely works for this. But how does GPT-4o respond to secondary images? Let's take a look. This is getting a little more complicated. So this is a sizing graphic. On the left-hand side is what our team created as part of the 60-hour case study. On the right is what I generated with ChatGPT. This was when I didn't understand context, and so I wasn't able to make photorealistic kids. All in all, it's a pretty good representation of the image on the left-hand side. I'm actually very impressed with it. Here it's telling me it can't make specific or identifiable children, blah, 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 blah. It's telling me it can't do any of this, a bunch of no's. You'll see later I show some examples of it actually delivering on this. This is a durability graphic, basically girl dropping the binoculars, binoculars falling in water. So I'm trying to replicate this. Again, no humans, and you can see, okay, looks good. This looks a little cartoonish. So I said, hey, let's make it more photorealistic. And we actually get a pretty good shot. Again, no humans on this yet, but I like this water splash and the water droplets much better than the image that our team created. I still think theirs is better. I love this emotion. But after that, this is week number 2. Now I've learned this little hack about giving some context. And so what I did to go a little bit over the top is I got a sheet of paper. You're going to see my artwork on the left-hand side. And I said, okay, let me sketch out what I want. I'm going to add some context into my description and describe. We want this title. We want a girl looking shocked, dropping the binoculars, and then binoculars falling in the water with the text waterproof. So I give it this reference image. I give it the quick description. And then ChatGPT makes me this, which, yes, it's a little cartoonish, but I like this because I can verify all of the elements we want are here. We've got our title, our subtitle, the shocked girl, the binoculars falling, and then the binoculars in water. So now I just say, okay, cool, make this more photorealistic, and then we get these gems. So look at this. We've got all of our elements, and this is looking really good. We've got the girl dropping the binoculars. I say, let's switch it to a boy. Okay, this is looking really good. But these binoculars are a little bit too high. So I just type in the prompt, let's drop the binoculars, and then we get this gem here. This is 3 revisions. We're talking a few minutes of waiting for ChatGPT to do its thing. And we've got a great looking image, the boy dropping the binoculars, really good all around. So what I want to compare now is this. There is 6 competitors in this niche that had a graphic specifically related to durability. This is what I thought was the best durability graphic. This is what our team created, and this is what I was able to do with 3 revisions through ChatGPT. So between our team and our ChatGPT output, I think these are pretty close, within the same ballpark, but both of these are certainly better than the competitor, and I spent 5 minutes making this, and the only reference that I gave it was the text that I had, and then this image here. Okay, that's powerful stuff. So let's check this again. One of my favorite types of graphics is an applications graphic, really great from a conversion optimization standpoint. So I draw out my graphic. I say we want this title. We want a tent with a roaring fireplace, a girl sitting in some stands, watching 2 people play football, a mom driving a car, 2 kids in the back seats with binoculars looking out at a view, and then a parent at the top of a mountain with a kid looking out into, again, a beautiful view. We've got camping, sporting events, road trips, and hiking. So makes me a cartoonish version. I say, let's make it more photorealistic. And then I say, title is a little wonky. Let's try to clean that up. It does. And then now I go through 3 extra revisions. Some better, some worse. But, why is she looking at the fire here? Why are the kids looking at each other? Where's the parent? But all in all, this is what I've found is if I'm going more than 5 revisions in, that's where I just stop myself and say, okay, a designer can easily come through and make some edits to these. So maybe we take this quadrant and combine it with this quadrant. We get rid of the lump in the head. Like, don't try to do too many revisions because I think it's not going to get better. It actually starts to get worse. Sweet spot, I think, is between 5 to 7. But for an applications graphic, I think all of these are very solid. Let's move on. Another graphic that we made was a POV or a magnification graphic. And this is what our team created. It's basically look through the binoculars, 16x zoom, and we've got a title here. So when I initially created the graphic, you could see it's duplicating the subtitle here. This was part of that longer thread. ChatGPT was getting a little confused. You can see we've got the hanging finger. It was getting worse with each variation. So I came back the following week and I tried to create something that was a little bit better. So I went onto my sheet of paper, I wrote my title, and the drawing that I made was a little different than what our team did. I had this idea on the spur of a moment that let's do one half with like a bird, and this is a hand holding the binocular, and then one half which is like a sporting scene and a hand holding the binocular. So this is the V1 output. It's certainly better than this, but it's not quite what we wanted. So then I go and actually describe that I wanted a sporting scenario. I wanted the bird, 16x zoom. And you can see it's not exactly the same as this. I'll show you another graphic where I tried to do the same exact concept and you can tell me what you think. But compare this to the best competitor image, which shows a POV, what it actually looks like from a magnification standpoint, looking through these binoculars. And ask yourself, which one do you prefer? The competitor, what our team did, or our V1? This is really the power of AI, that I'm not limited. When I started this project, I gave our team like 25 different secondary image concepts. In the time we allocated, they only had time to do, like maybe 10 or 12 of them. So if I am concepting ideas, and originally the idea is to look like this, but then spur of the moment, I'm like, whoa, maybe it would be cool to show like half bird, half sporting scene. A designer is not going to have time to like go through and create all of this and move these assets around. But in AI, I can have a crazy idea. And even if we never use it, I have only spent a couple of minutes putting this together. So this is the baseline comparison now, exactly what we tried to do in the first graphic. You can see this is after 4 revisions, we were able to get this. And then this is a 5th revision where I said, hey, change the color scheme to be more of it looking like fall. And you can see this is where I develop a little bit more by the 3rd revision. I call this a 3A for a 3 alternate. So different from the original style. Maybe it's a little too abstract, but again, this is something that if I'm trying to get my designers to do this, I'm just eating up their hourly rate. They might spend an hour just making me this graphic versus now I have a crazy idea. I can concept it and create it with only 3 revisions. So again, what I want you to ask yourself is not, is this better than this? I think they're very similar, right? But is one of the images that you've seen, is it better than this? This is the best competitor image for that POV shot. Okay, we're gonna move on here. I mean, this is kind of cool though, right? It's pretty cool. Okay, I wanted to try this graphic because our team actually had some trouble initially with this. It's a little bit more of an abstract graphic. I don't even know how effective this is, but it's one of those crazy ideas that I had, and it's supposed to reinforce STEM learning for this product. And the thought is you're gonna buy these binoculars for your kids. Your kid is gonna look through the binoculars, see a bird, and then they're gonna be inspired to go and like paint that bird or color a picture of a bird. And it's gonna make them a more creative, more engaged kid, less time on their screens. And we've got this description: inspire, imagine, create, discover the world through our lens. So I literally just describe that situation. I draw it out so that the AI knows where I want things. And then it creates us this image as a V1. We've got the girl looking through the binoculars, and now she's coloring or painting or whatever this bird. But I say, look, I want to see the girl's eyes, so drop the binoculars down a little bit. we get a little bit better. I also say the bird doesn't really look like this bird, so it kind of redoes this. And I say I want some more crayons or colored pencils, whatever it is. And honestly, this is not really a bad graphic at all. Our team does some iterations of this as well. I asked our internal team to use AI. We had, I wanted to try to make some graphics that were related to gifting. These are some of the top competitors. They're gift images. I think this one's pretty good. This is a little wonk wonk. This is okay. This I was not able to get good results on, unfortunately. So it was not able to make me anything with people in it. So these are good gifting graphics, but it's not really what I wanted. I asked our team. I tried 10 times before giving up. I tried to add more context. I had more issues and more issues. So I asked the team to take a crack at it. And this is what they got. No people here. We still got to dig a little deeper on that. But they made one for the holidays, one for Easter, one for Halloween. Still more digging to go there. We made a bunch of product anatomy graphics, product anatomy related to ease of use. You can see it just keeps going. So I want to take it back home here for a minute. And it's no doubt, based on what I've shown you, that ChatGPT can absolutely create some really good images for you. So where do you go from here in terms of deciding which images you actually want to create? And so here I want to give you some data points, and yeah, this is all going to make sense. So we used Intellivy, and they have a test called a purchase barrier poll, also known as their Drab analysis. So it's the dominant reasons to avoid buying, Drab. And what this test does is it gives you the 10 most common objections, or the 10 most likely objections that people would have before they buy a product. And if you watch the workflow we have with Peter Paul from Intellivy, we explain all of this. But for these kids' binoculars, the number one objection that came up in the Drab was durability. Number 2 objection was child safety. And number 3 objection was ease of use for kids. Now, if you don't have the budget, I recommend using Intellivy. I recommend the Drab test. It's one of my favorite tests to run for all market research. But if you don't have the budget, you're going to find there's some overlap between that and what you can get for free in the AI product brief. So this is attributes included in the listing, and you're going to see these 3 things come up with high frequency. So ease of use, child safety, and durability. This is it shown in what customers like. This is it shown in what customers dislike. So the thing you have to ask yourself is, if durability is, we can argue about if it's the number one objection people have before they buy the product, but it's certainly important. And so out of the 28 competitors included in this niche, how many have a graphic that specifically addresses durability? The answer is 6. And these are the 6 graphics that are shown for durability, right? Take a look at some of these. We're showing shockproof by showing like a power outlet being disconnected. It makes sense from a word standpoint, but it's not really what shockproof means. It doesn't have anything to do with electricity. This is the one that you've already seen. This is a pretty good reference image. You might find that ours look somewhat similar to this. So you have to ask yourself, for all of the graphics on durability, if A, I'm a seller that doesn't have a graphic on durability, well, we already know we can create a really good looking durability graphic. Or if I was one of these sellers that already has a graphic for durability, could I use AI to make a better image that addresses this concept? For ease of use for children, we have a lot of competitors that have very general graphics saying these are binoculars for kids, only binoculars designed for kids, perfect for curious girls and boys, whatever it is. We tried to create some graphics that were a little more specific. The reason that these are perfect for kids is because it's a small size, because it has a very easy to adjust toggle for the focus, that it has a strap. So if you're carrying these, a kid is carrying these on a hike, you don't have to hand it to the parents. They can just wrap it around their neck and, whatever. It's great for kids. So last one here is on child safety. So there are actually some pretty good graphics related to child safety. Again, not all of the 28 competitors have a graphic that specifically addresses child safety. So some people are talking about soft eye cups. Some people are addressing the child safety from a product anatomy graphic. Again, if I'm one of the sellers that doesn't have a graphic related to child safety, it's at least something that I can create. It's something that I can test, and I can try putting that into my image gallery and see if it improves my conversion rate. Or in my A+ content, you can test it as you would like. So this video is not going to include market research because I want to keep things moving and keep it quick. Last little note here, and this is just a little pro tip, is what I've found. You could see I had my little sketches, and those were my reference images for what ChatGPT should make the image look like. And it's good for giving ChatGPT an idea of where you want certain objects in the overall layout. I find that it's helpful if I draw it. I do a better job of text describing what I want to see versus trying to keep it all inside my head. But ChatGPT responds extremely well to reference images. So there's this guy, George, that I collaborated a lot with when I was back at PickFu. He had a group called Amazon Creatives. And I think the group might still be around, but basically they just compiled really good inspiration images for main images, secondary images, A+ content, video, and they put it all into the Facebook group. I got on a call with him last week, and he showed me this project that he's been working on for a couple of years called AMZ Design Kit. And basically, it is a library of more than 30,000 design examples. So again, main images, secondary images, A+ content, and they even now have Canva and Figma templates, as well as ChatGPT prompts that you can use. So like I said, ChatGPT 4.0 responds extremely well if you give it a reference image. For this example, I typed in toys, and there's 3,417 infographics that fit that criteria. You can search by category, you can search and filter however you want. But I also like it because it's super, super cheap. 15 pounds, so it's less than $20, and you get access to 30,000 different example images. So these are some of the reference images that I saw when I searched for toys. So if I say like, hey, I really like this style of an image, or this style of a lifestyle, or this style of a infographic, I can just download that, throw it into ChatGPT and say, hey, we've got my binoculars. Can we make an infographic that looks like this? And I find that it's actually a really good reference point. So go and check out AMZ Design Kit. I can't recommend it high enough. I like it when the price is right, and $20 I think is a pretty good price to get access to a really good library of data, much bigger than the Amazon Creatives Facebook page that they had back in the day, a lot more user-friendly and searchable. So I'm going to wrap up here with Data Dive announcements, and I'm just going to say it again. If you like this presentation and you're thinking, whoa, I would love to not only learn how to do that, but I would love to be in a room where I'm forced to, over a 2-day period, actually execute on this stuff, or have someone on your team, send them down to Cancun. I know it's really rough. Send them down to Cancun, and they will, I guarantee, they will leave with usable main images, secondary images, A+ content that they can use in the listing. We have a partnership already with a few different market research tools. So there's going to be free access to test the assets that you've created, benchmark them against your current assets, and benchmark against your competitor assets. Last couple of years, we've had like 30 days to put this event on. We've had months to prepare. We're giving everyone a workbook that's like this thick with workflows, SOPs. It's going to be highly interactive. And I can tell you about the venue. It's an all-inclusive resort on the beach in Mexico. It's beautiful. There will be some virtual access that's available. We're professionally recording all of it. But if you could make it out in person, I mean, it's going to be a top-notch event. So you can go to campecom.com, scan the QR code, and that's basically all I have. Q&A, you can just drop your questions down in the comments below. And I hope you enjoyed that video. I think we kept it time frame pretty good. And go play around with ChatGPT. We'll see you in the next one.